This is Michelle, your inner healing coach, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about trauma. I want to read from the book The Body Keeps the Score. Highly recommend this book if you're on a trauma healing journey. But I wanted to read this paragraph to you because I think it's so important. Research from these new disciplines has revealed that trauma produces actual physiological changes in the brain, including a recalibration of the brain's alarm system, an increase in stress hormone activity, and alterations in the system that filters relevant information from irrelevant. We now know that trauma comprises the brain area that communicates the physical, embodied feeling of being alive. These changes explain why traumatized individuals become hypervigilant to threat at the expense of spontaneously engaging in their day-to-day lives. They also help us understand why traumatized people so often keep repeating the same problems and have trouble learning from experience. We now know that their behaviors are not a result of moral failings or signs of lack of willpower or bad character. They're caused by actual changes in the brain. So I was just reading from The Body Keeps the Score, but I want to add to it. One of the things this book talks about is how there's changes in your brain. Whereas and the increase of the stress hormone. Now imagine as a child you went through trauma. Now remember the big trauma, the big capital T traumas like sexual abuse, physical abuse are all traumatic, but also is abandonment wound when you're a child, rejection as a child, critical parent, your feelings not being acknowledged, you not being seen, you not being heard. They're all causing physiological changes, and they're all imprinting on your brain. There's a programming that is formed saying you're not valuable, you don't matter, your life amounts to nothing. And there's all this programming is how the story you're making out of the situation you're experiencing. So let's say if you had a parent constantly abusing you, constantly being critical to you, constantly neglecting you, you're now starting to make up the story that you're not important, you're not worthy, you're not worthy of love, you're not worthy of all the good there is in this world. Now think of if you had a parent missing in your life. A child has to have both mom and dad in the picture. Now sometimes you may not have mom or dad in the picture, but in the subconscious, even though you feel you have dealt with it, the subconscious, there's a whole lot of story. Why did one of my parents abandon me? Was I not important to them? Right? There are all these stories, and once again, do you know what that is corroding? It's corroding your self-worth. You carry the shame that there is something wrong with you, something wrong with your family. So that's a shame that you have been carrying for ages. Now there's another thing that happens with the trauma or these experiences. Now let's say when you're growing up, you grew up in an environment where you didn't feel safe. An environment where the parents were fighting or the parents are very strict and you always have to be hyper vigilant, on guard, because you don't know when you're going to be in trouble or get in trouble, right? So what is happening to your nervous system? When you're constantly in that environment as a child, not only are you producing more stress hormones, more cortisol in your bloodstream, but also your fight, flight, freeze, fawn part of your nervous system increases in tone. And ideally, you have the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, which is your sympathetic part of your nervous system. And then you have the parasympathetic, which is rest, digestion, reproduction, healing, right? Restoration of yourself. All of that is your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, if you're in a home environment where it was always stressful for you, maybe parents are fighting in the background, maybe you feel you need to protect yourself all the time, there's nobody to fend or nobody to defend you and you have to fend for yourself, what is happening? High tone of the sympathetic. Now this little girl or boy is growing up to be an adult. Now as an adult, what do you think the programming is going to be? As an adult, there is more stress hormones in this person's body. So if that is you, you may find that when you're starting off with things like mindfulness or healing journeys, there is a resistance because there's so much stress hormone that you're used to that when the stress hormones are starting to drop, have a little fly. When the stress hormones are starting to drop, do you know what happens? Withdrawal symptoms, because you're used to these high levels of cortisol. Now, that being said, what can you do? How can you bring your body into this reset, into this balance where your nervous system is in coherence? How do you bring it to that state? Now, there are several things you can do. You must have heard of mindfulness. You must have heard of journaling. You must have heard of self-reflection activities, visualization. So many beautiful activities out there. But I wanted to talk today about the quantum inner healing technique. It's a technique I developed here at Rewiring Minds. And it's a technique where we use the modality of tapping. We use tapping just so we can say to the amygdala, which is a part of your brain that immediately, if it feels triggered, it goes into this fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. Just so we don't go into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, we use the modality of tapping, keeping that amygdala safe. And do you know what happens when your amygdala is safe? Suddenly, all those unhealed memories, all those memories that caused a scar in you, all those memories that cause an energetic block within you starts to surface to be released. So as we're tapping and as we're going on the quantum inner healing journey, you will start to have the subconscious bring forward into your conscious awareness some of these memories that you have suppressed. Some of these memories that have actually caused a scar within your biological system. And now in the quantum inner healing technique, what is amazing about it is that we get to go to that memory. We get to bring that memory out. You get to release any negative emotion around that memory. You get to see the limiting beliefs that were formed as a result of this event. You get to release it all. You get to reprogram your brain and to see this memory from a place of growth rather than a place of being stuck. Now we reintegrate this memory. Imagine when you are reintegrating it from a place of growth, from a place of inner peace, now coming in terms with that memory, coming to terms with that memory, coming to that place of peace, coming to that place of forgiveness, because quantum inner healing, one of the things we're going to be doing is visiting the little child within. Now, visiting the little child within is a journey where you're not just visiting the little child, there's healing that happens at the level of the inner child. And then healing that happens when it comes to forgiveness work for those who have wounded you and forgiving yourself. Healing that happens when it comes to the component of shame. Sometimes you carry a lot of shame, guilt around what happened. And it's not even consciously there, but you know how it presents itself? It might present itself as you sabotaging yourself. It may present itself as you feeling you are unworthy of all the good there is in this life, unworthy of love, unworthy of wealth, unworthy of a life of ease, peace, joy. Because somewhere along the way, because of all these events, you started to believe you are unworthy. But because it's on a subconscious level, consciously, when you look around, you just see yourself building things, losing it, or craving for things, but it's not coming to you. Or you might find that you find these things, they come to you, but then you start self-sabotaging. And you start losing these things, and you don't understand why you can't keep all the joy that came to you. Again, going back to programming, sometimes the programming in your head is life cannot be easy. I have to work really hard for it. Programming is I am not worthy. So there is a lot of programming you get to dive into. Now, what is great about quantum inner healing is because it's a work that where we go back in time and we use the theory of quantum physics, we can jump many timelines. So not only are you healing your inner child, but when it comes to forgiveness work, we get to go on a healing journey to heal generational trauma. And for those of you who remember past life, it's easy to heal as well, because in quantum inner healing, there is no constriction of time. So wherever your journey takes you, you get to go to that spot and heal. So if you're carrying or you remember your past life, you still get to heal it. It's not just about remembering the past life. Many of you have done work where you remember past lives, but now you're stuck. You're stuck in the pain of that past life. But you get to heal it through the quantum inner healing technique. So this is a powerful technique that I can't wait for you to experience. If this is something that calls to you, comment below, or I'll put the link for a free discovery call. Book your call and let's get started.